Okay, so today what I want to talk about is the concept of servant leadership. And I think, the slogan that fits this type of leadership better than anything else is to lead is to serve. The first thing that a leader should be is a servant. And being a leader without being a servant isn't really being a leader, it's more of being a dictator. Um, so I want to start out with this quote by Martin Luther King. I really feel like it fits this topic really well, but everybody can be great because anybody can serve. You don't have to have a college degree to serve. You don't have to make your subject and verb agree to serve. You only need a heart full of grace, a soul generated by love. And what I think about when being a principal, uh, one thing that you definitely have to have a whole lot of is love. If you don't have love for your teachers, and most importantly for your students, you're not going to make it very far. And of course, when you have love for someone, service is obviously something that you do for them in many different ways. So more or less, the concept of servant leadership is basically the idea that a leader first needs to be a servant, wanting to serve the people that you serve, especially kids from a principal's perspective. And when you're all about serving the people that you're supposed to be helping, you are a whole lot better of a leader than if you're just focused on the end goal. So instead of focusing on the end goal, focus first on serving the people whom you're working with, the people that you're supposed to be helping, and then leadership will follow after that instead of just focusing on being a leader and then serving afterwards. So serving coming first. So of course, a servant leader is essentially, in simple terms, someone who puts other people's needs, aspirations, and interests above their own. So putting other people first before yourself, which is something that not all leaders do. A lot of leaders put themselves first, and it's about what they want and what they need to occur. So a servant leader is kind of someone who flips that, someone who first focuses on everyone else before them. Just thinking about great servant leaders from history, people that we've all heard of, Gandhi, Jesus, Martin Luther King, and Mother Teresa, one thing that they all have in common is putting other people first. Their goal was not to make themselves famous. Their goal was to help other people, whether it be through, you know, getting independence for India or the civil rights movement or any of the other things that these great leaders did. It was all about helping other people and putting other people first. And when they did that, other people became invested in what they were all about and therefore followed them. So, more or less, characteristics of servant leaders, these are all things that servant leaders do. And the first one, which is extraordinarily important for being a principal, is they listen. Um, a lot of people listen, but there's really a difference between listening and actually doing something based off of what you hear. So obviously, as a principal, it's extremely important to listen not only to your teachers, but also to the students whom you serve. But when you hear something that you can do something about, which is almost often the case, do something about what you hear. That's when you really prove to people that you are listening to them, is when you follow through with something that they had suggested, or you fix a problem that they had, or you at least do the very best that you can and show people that you actually have heard of. There's a lot of leaders that listen to people, but there aren't that many that actually do something based off of other suggestions. Empathy. Definitely, being able to put yourself in the shoes of both a teacher and a student in your school. I think this is really important because a lot of times it seems like principals are out of touch with the reality of what it's actually like, at least from my perspective, in a classroom. What it's like to be a teacher, how difficult it is, how much planning and effort and grading and relationship building and extracurricular activities and all that kind of stuff that goes into it. Definitely being able to see things from the perspective of a teacher. Because it seems, a lot of the principals that I know, that obviously they all start out as teachers, but being in a leadership role changes them. And so a servant leader is one that definitely sees things from the perspective of the people that work for them and also the children that they are serving. Servant leaders are also focused on healing. When you think about a principal that's coming into a new school, a lot of times, especially schools that we've studied in SPA, schools that aren't doing too well, things that have not gone well, bad situations in the past. And a servant leader is first going to focus on healing the past, trying to mend the people that are going to be moving forward so that they can actually make progress and not dwell in the past. Obviously, self-awareness, that's important for any kind of leader. That's what we talk most about in SPA. Persuasion, not forcing people to do things. A servant leader is kind of one who's on the ground trying to be kind of becoming a grassroots leader, trying to convince people why what they're trying to do is a good thing and listening to everyone's input in order to build consensus. Of course, you get a lot more buy-in when you take other people's suggestions into consideration, not just saying this is how it's going to be, this is what you need to do, get it done, but instead going the other route, getting people's perspectives on things and kind of coming up with a mutually satisfactory solution. Obviously, humility is an extremely important, and that I really feel like fits the characteristic of a servant leader pretty well. Instead of acting like you're the superwoman, you're the superhero, your teachers, focusing on your teachers, putting the teachers first. Because really they are the ones who have the majority of the interaction with the student, and they're the ones who make the biggest impact on student learning. So always putting your teachers first and kind of encouraging them, making them feel like they're important and serving them, making them feel like they're the majority of the ones who are responsible for what's going on and kind of drawing attention away from yourself. Obviously, foresight, instead of just making a decision, really, and this kind of goes along with empathy, but thinking about how are the things that I'm going to do as a leader going to affect my people, my teachers, the students that I serve, etc., etc. Commitment to growing people, not just growing yourself and doing things for your own resume, but making sure that you're really focused on helping other people grow, whether it be being a better teacher or promoting leaders in your own school that can one day become administrators or anything else like that. Really focused on making everyone else in your school the very, very best that they can be. Because if you do that, your school is going to be a whole lot better off than if there's just one leader, which is you. And then, of course, community, fostering teamwork and a sense of family instead of, focusing only on the end goal of student learning. Focusing on coming together as a family, building a school culture, building a group of teachers who work together and are all focused on a common purpose, and kind of trying to create a family atmosphere within your school instead of just a atmosphere that is only focused on achievement. Because if you build a family and everyone's on the same page, then achieving becomes a whole lot easier. Just things that student leaders or servant leaders do, and I thought these are kind of, basic things. Obviously, giving your team, your teachers the credit. Often I've seen, principals get awards for some improvement that's happened at their school, but it's not often that teachers are a part of that ceremony or getting that recognition. Really, the principal should call the teachers up to the stage to receive any kind of award that goes off, because it's really them that's doing the hard work. So always giving your teachers the credit when things go right. And of course, not blaming teachers when things go wrong. You have to be able to say, look, I was wrong. I make mistakes too. If you're able to say, look, I made this mistake. This is what I did, and I think this is what we can do differently in the past. People look at you as more of a human being, and if you're humble enough to do that, that definitely will change the way that other people look at you as more of a real person. Being wise enough to admit that you don't know, you don't have all of the answers, and instead of you having to have all the answers, serve other people, let other people find the answers, see who in your staff has the answer, but don't act like you're one of those leaders that just knows everything, because that turns other people off. Obviously, always taking the time to listen. As a principal, you have a whole lot of things to do, but your actions in terms of what you pay attention to, that really shows what you value. So if you don't have time to listen to your teachers, you don't have time to listen to your kids because you have paperwork and meetings, etc., that sends a pretty clear message of what's important to you. But if you're always available, if something's going on and someone comes up to you, you just put everything down and focus on what they need. That it's not often easy to do, but that shows other people that they're important. And I think this really fits servant leadership most definitely. Rolling up your sleeves and doing the hard work. A principal shouldn't just be the person who sits in the office with the suit on. Sometimes the principal needs to pick up a broom or a mop. Not watching a teacher do something like that. They're the ones who step in and do the hard work to make it easier for the people who are really doing the hard work in the classroom. Clearing the jams from the copy machine instead of walking away from it and letting a principal or a teacher do that. And I really feel like even this is one I've heard of a principal doing, giving up the principal parking spot to the teacher of the month, or kind of giving things that are reserved for you to other people and showing them that they're really important instead of just yourself. So really, I like this graphic because I really feel like it fits the majority of this whole concept. The leader should be the one who is leading the pack. They should be doing a lot of the work. They should be pulling a lot of the weight in an organization, because when people actually see the leader is getting dirty and doing the hard work and completely dedicated to what's going on, people are much more willing to follow you, as opposed to you just sitting there in your office getting paid 3 times more than a teacher and ordering other people around. That doesn't really build investment. But when you're down there, you're doing the hard work, you're showing people what you want them to do, and you're really leading the charge, that's when people will start to follow you. So obviously devoting yourselves to serving the needs of others and meeting other people's needs. So if a teacher needs resources, get them for them. If you don't have the money for it, find a way to make it happen. Focus on meeting other people's needs, and you'll find, I believe in my experience, that other people will focus more so on meeting your needs once they know that you're completely invested in them. And of course, this whole concept of sacrifice is key. Sacrificing your own personal comfort, your time, your even sometimes money to serve the people that are underneath of you. Focusing just on what you want is often kind of counterproductive. When you focus on what other people want and what other people need in order to do their job, they're going to realize, oh wow, this principal cares about me. This principal wants the best for me, and you know what? I can see they're clearly on board here, so I think I'm going to follow them. And I really feel like this kind of goes along even with being a classroom teacher. A lot of the kids that I have in my class don't particularly like history, but they work hard for me because they like me as a person. They know that I care about them, and so they're invested in me as a person, and they'll work harder for me than they would for another teacher. Kind of goes back to the Rita Pearson relationships lady. Kids don't learn from people they don't like, and teachers aren't going to work hard for principals that they don't like. But if you invest your time in them, you show them that they're important to you, they're more likely to work harder for you as a result. So really the only thing I'm going to talk about here is giving power away. So developing followers, you're the one who has all the power. You're the one who's the star on the stage. And leaders who develop leaders or servant leaders, they give their power away. They invest their time in others, and they really focus on other people as opposed to themselves. So just a couple quotes to close out. We would rather have one man or woman working for us than 3 merely working for us. And I think the difference between getting someone to work for you as opposed to working with you is servant leadership. When you are on the floor, you're working with them. they're going to work with you. But if you're just the person who's up top making all the decisions, people are really working for you rather than with you. The amount of honest feedback that you get. If you're a servant leader, you're definitely going to not only get honest feedback, but you're going to seek it as well. The art of getting someone else to do something you want done because he or she wants to do it. Well, how do you get so-and-so to want to do something? Not everyone is always going to be just invested in that particular work or job, but if you dedicate yourself to them, they're going to be much more likely to want to do what you need them to do. And of course, this one, you can buy someone's time, you can buy someone's physical presence at a given place. You can even buy a measured number of skilled muscular motions per hour or day, but you cannot buy enthusiasm, you cannot buy initiative, you cannot buy loyalty, and you cannot buy devotions of hearts, minds, and souls. You have to earn these things. And I feel like the way that you earn these things is by being a servant first and leader second. And just to end on what I feel like the real important part of servant leadership is, it's focusing on students. So if you're completely dedicated to students and teachers, but mostly students, you put students first always, and you're all about serving them, giving them what they need, then other people are going to be more likely to serve along with you. All right, I hope you learned a little bit more about the concept of servant leadership.